Welcome to the next edition of our Foundation Speaker Series. My name is Amber Goss, and today it is my great pleasure to chat with two of the Navy's finest sailors, Bryan Mather and Kate Mehaffey. Hailing from Manchester, Pennsylvania, Bryan enlisted in May of 2006. Bryan is a Master-at-Arms First Class Petty Officer stationed in Virginia. Kate comes to us from Woodbury, New Jersey. She enlisted in July of 2010 and is currently a Master-at-Arms First Class Petty Officer stationed in Washington. Bryan and Kate, welcome. And let me start out by thanking you guys not only for joining us today, but for your service to our country.
Hey.
Hello.
As we all know, there's several options for our students who might be considering joining the military. But out of all of the choices, you guys chose to enlist in the Navy. Can you share why exactly you chose the Navy over the other branches?
I'll share mine. So when I went in, my mom immediately told me the Marines was not an option, even though that's what I wanted the most. So I had to cross that one off the board. That day that I went in, the Army recruiters just happened to not be in there. And when I talked to the Air Force, they said they weren't hiring right now, but I think they just didn't like me. And the Navy recruiters just happened to be very welcoming, and they were very in-depth with explaining the jobs, and that's what I was most interested in.
For me, I actually went and shopped all four branches. Similar to Kate's mom, my dad told me, "You will not be a Marine." I respected that, and I continued to shop around, and a buddy of mine was in the Navy, and I asked him about it, and from there it kind of went down history where I just decided to go with the Navy.
And obviously, you know, it's paid off for you guys. You both have been in service for quite some time, but let's go back to the beginning of your careers with the Navy. Can you tell us how you guys went about joining? I know, Kate, you mentioned a little bit about looking at a recruiter and talking to them. Can you kind of walk us through the process or the beginning steps of somebody who's looking to jump into a naval career?
So where I grew up, it's kind of a high crime area. We were kind of limited on options. College was not going to be for me yet. I was interested, but we didn't have the money for me to go. And growing up, I kind of ran around with a bad crowd. So when it came down to deciding what I was going to do after high school, I remember I was I was actually in a fight with my dad, and the TV was on, and a military recruiting commercial came on, and I said, "Well, I'm going to join the military." And he drove me to the recruiter and said, "There you go ahead." And I was just like, "All right, I guess I'm doing this."
For me, I know when I got out of high school, I didn't want to go to college. I had a job, wasn't a career or anything like that. I just had a job. I said if I ever quit or got fired or anything along those lines, I was going to do what I always wanted to do, and I was going to join the military. So I quit, and probably about 3 months after I said it, I actually quit the job, went to the recruiter's office, and enlisted. It was just that simple. It was something I wanted to do since high school, but I just got distracted with life.
So after you guys both enlisted through the recruiter's office, can you tell us a little bit about those first few days after you joined? What did it feel like? Tell us a little bit about your boot camp experience. What are the early years of, starting out in a military career like for you?
For me, I remember getting to boot camp, and I had not done much traveling, so I didn't meet many people outside of like that Northeast area that I grew up in. So meeting people from all over the world and seeing their different behaviors, it was kind of like a social shock that I had to learn how to speak to people in a different manner. And I think we were just all kind of scared and like, what did I get myself into? But after a while, you catch on to the routine and you start picking it up. It gets a little bit easier.
So for me, going to boot camp, I grew up in a kind of strict household, so it was a little bit of a surprise. I had the similar feeling of what did I just get myself into? But then just started going, and it was got easy. It got really easy. After boot camp, being a young sailor, I realized that the young sailors are a lot of the workforce of the Navy, and I put my time in. I worked really hard to get where I am today. So it was a lot of hard work, but it has definitely paid off.
And obviously it has. I know you guys have both shared with us, so I'm hoping you'll share with our viewers if you don't mind. Can you tell us what your current rank is and how you guys advanced from enlisting, working your way up to that current rank?
So I'm an E6, or in the Navy, we refer to it as your job and your rank together. So Bryan and I are both referred to as MA1. For getting promoted in the military, there's kind of two different ways. You can either get meritoriously promoted when you do specific acts that call for promotion, or you can get promoted, which in the standard way, which is taking an exam and being based off of your annual evaluation. Everyone enters the military with a specific rank between either E1 and E3. They're all merited off of different things. A lot of people get higher rank, like up to the E3 from doing college prior to the military, or even joining with a friend. Unfortunately, I didn't know about those options, so I came in E1, and I just had to serve my time, and I took all the exams, and that's how I promoted, was just passing all my exams and having good evaluations.
I had a little different start to my career. Before I joined the Navy, I was in the Boy Scouts. I made Eagle Scout, and I automatically joined as an E3, and then took my exams going up through, and the exams are not tough. You have to know your job. They're not easy. You have to know your job. You have to know a lot about your, what we call rates. And that's how I advanced as well.
And so you both advanced using, the standardized testing there within the military. I know in reading each of your bios, you also mentioned that there's several different schools you went to, throughout your careers there. Would you guys mind sharing a little bit more about that and how that works within the Navy?
So for me, my biggest skill bridge in this organization is being a coxswain, which is driving boats. So we drive small boats for the Harbor Security Force. We're providing security for the waterfront areas of all the naval stations. So I had to attend two different schools for just learning how to drive the boat. The first school was just basic stuff. Then the second school was learning tactics. And then I attended a third school where I had to learn to be an instructor for it. So a lot of my realm is harbor security. That's where I've kind of thrived in the military. And then additionally, outside of that, I'm also a small arms weapons instructor. So I'm teaching a lot of the sailors how to shoot weapons and qualifying them on it.
Some of the other schools that I know, for example, I've been to was the EMT Basic or EMT-B, which is what we normally call, like, outside it's anybody that runs with an ambulance crew or anything like that. But in the Navy, the corpsmen, the hospital corpsmen are normally the ones that do it. But I've been sent to that school where I had to learn how to be an EMT. That was a lot of work, but it really paid off. That and physical security, which is all about like getting access to installations, getting what the requirements are for everything. Again, I've been to schools like those. A lot of information. And my side of it is more law enforcement. So that's what I went and learned about.
And I appreciate you both touching a little bit about on what you do. So I'd love to dive into that a little bit further. I know that within the military, there's certain things you can share with us and certain things you can't share with us. So I'm hoping, within reason, what you can share. Can you guys tell us a little bit what a typical day looks like for you within your job, what you might be doing on a daily basis?
So Bryan and I have had some very similar and very different experiences. So I'll talk about the experience that I've mostly had in my career. I know Bryan has experienced it as well. But that's the life of being in harbor security. So generally, you're going to attend this thing that all cops all over the world do. It's guard mount. So as soon as you come in, you grab your gun, and they have a big meeting where they discuss things that are going on during the day. And then for harbor security folks, we talk about things that can affect our watch, like weather, what the water is going to be like, a bunch of safety measures that we're taking. And then we go out on our boats. We do big safety checks, make sure everything's going good. And we actually get underway there. And that's when we start patrolling all of the waterways and making sure that we're keeping up all of the measures of security that are necessary and doing any kind of extra assigned missions that are picked for the day.
For me, most of my career has been law enforcement, at least for the last 10 years, has been law enforcement. So we, like Kate said, we get in the morning, we do guard mount, which is our morning meeting, get our guns, everything like that. We go get in our patrol cars. We go out, patrol the bases, respond to anything from domestic violence to gate runners. We have our guys standing gates, giving people access onto the bases. If somebody tries to speed through that, our guys are the ones that respond and stop that threat to the base. We do traffic citations, 911 hang-up calls, pretty much anything you can think of the normal law enforcement outside the military does, we do as well. That's what I did for the majority of my career. I also did what's called anti-terrorism force protection, which is a deployable security detachment, and we deployed all over the world, and that's back where I'm at now. So.
And as we mentioned, you guys both have had, long-serving careers so far, so I'm sure that's brought a lot of memories between your various stations and deployments. So what I'm going to ask next is, can you guys share with us a couple of your most memorable experiences while you've been enlisted?
So for me, my favorite times in the Navy were when I was stationed on board the aircraft carrier. When you're there and deployed out to sea, all you have is your friends that are on board there, and they turn into your family. So camaraderie is just so high, and we're getting to travel the world for free, like to places that you would never see in your lifetime. I got to go all over the place to Singapore, South Korea, Guam, Hawaii, and you're basically on a cruise with your friends. It's 6 months long. The food stinks. Everything's broken and dirty. But you're making so many memories that you would never have the opportunity for unless you were in the military.
I'd have to say some of my best memories was one of my first duty stations. It was actually my first one. It was Mobile Security Squadron 7 out of Guam, where we deployed all over the world. I made friends there and this was 2006 when I got stationed there, and I have still talked to them regularly. Kate is absolutely right. The camaraderie that you build on deployments is unreal. I have such a huge family now. And then also, I've got stationed in places like Sicily, and I'm in Virginia again for the second time. But in general, just the chances to get to see so many different cultures, so many different places, it's unreal. You can't really describe it until you're there with your new enlarged family, and it's amazing.
And I think that does carry through with whatever branch of the military. We've heard a lot of that, the camaraderie and the travel. And it's funny you mentioned the travel. I know, like you guys have both mentioned, you've been stationed or deployed to places like Guam, Italy, Bahrain, South Korea, Singapore. Can you guys tell me which, other than being stateside, of course, here with your families, I'm sure, what areas were your favorite to be stationed at? And, what's it like to be a U.S. service member living in a different country?
So the only place that I've been stationed overseas is Bahrain. All of the other places I've visited were just port calls. So you only spend about between 3 to 6 days there. So I wouldn't use them as an experience because you're not actually living there and like being inside the culture long enough to identify that. In Bahrain, it's pretty interesting. You're in the Middle East. And when I moved there, I did not do enough research. So I thought I was literally moving to the desert. I thought I was going to be surrounded by like all kinds of like camels and stuff. Like, I was not ready when I went there. It's actually extremely Americanized. It's a huge melting pot of culture. There's a huge city with like everything you can ever need that you have in America, like from American Eagle to GameStop. You have everything there. So that was definitely a very interesting experience there. But out of all my port calls, I think South Korea was my favorite. I'm a huge nerd, and all of the video games and anime and everything they have there, that's where I thrived. So that's my experience with it.
I've been stationed for overseas wise. Like I said, did my first 4 years in Guam, which when I got stationed there, I was like, where's that? What is, I have no idea. It's a tiny island in the South Pacific, but it is beautiful. It's gorgeous. I loved it. But I've also been stationed in Italy, which was probably my favorite because of the travel. I took my family of 4 to Rome, to Vatican City for a 4-day weekend, and it was amazing. We also went to Germany. We were all over the place, and it was so much fun. That's one part I really enjoyed about being overseas like that, was the travel. But then in Italy, they all speak Italian. We speak English. But if you tried, they would try, and you'd work it out together for like the language barriers. Like I learned very little Italian, but we seem to manage to get by pretty well. As long as you sit there and you give them the effort, they'll give you the effort back to be able to communicate.
And that's awesome. And I'm sure those experiences were awesome, you know, being able to explore. And we know, if our viewers aren't aware, you know, the Navy is the second oldest branch of the military with a long history. And in doing our research, we learned that your unofficial motto is not for self, but for country. So I'd love to ask you guys, how do you feel when you put on your uniform? What's the most meaningful part of, you know, serving your country and being a member of the Navy?
I would say for me, so since I didn't join for the reason that most people join, which is like, you know, doing the right thing and all that stuff, this was lessons I had to learn in the Navy. The Navy pretty much took adulthood and put it on a silver platter for me and taught me everything that I needed to know. So for me, like the most meaningful part of serving is getting to meet all walks of life and learning all of the morals and ethics that they teach you. It's something that I wouldn't have been exposed to if I was still living in New Jersey. That I really learned how to communicate so much better and effectively. So it's something that I'm going to carry with me for the rest of my life.
So what it feels like to put on my uniform every day to go for work, honestly, it was just like when before I joined, like this uniform we're wearing right now, it's our daily work uniform. It's not like, oh yay, you know, putting on my work uniform to go to work. But when we get in our like dress uniforms, that's what it's like, that pride comes in. You see everything, you're like, man, I look good. Everybody sit there and like, you see a sailor in their dress blues, everybody knows, hey, there's a Cracker Jacks, you know, it's like, wow. And they look sharp, they look good. But the thing that it's taught me and I'm proud of is, it's hard because I'd say it's the ability to work with others as well as I've learned. Because before I joined, I was a very stubborn young man. And this has really helped me learn how to accept others and be, you know, more of a team player. And if it wasn't for that, I'd probably just be some stubborn punk from Southern Pennsylvania.
And you both have hit on some great things that you've learned and things that I'm sure you'll carry with you and continue to learn upon on a daily basis. So what I'll ask next is, what other skills or life lessons besides, you know, those that you've just shared, do you think you've gained over the years by simply serving in the Navy?
So I think one of the most important things I've learned is the importance of networking. I have friends all over the world, and that's not even just from going to these places and meeting them. It's also just making sure that, I show up to this new command, Washington here, and I may not know a whole lot of people, but they know some people that I know, and we make that connection. And now we're building these bridges of relationships. And when I know I'm going to Bahrain next, I make sure that I reach out there and make some friends before I head up there. And now I've got so much help once I get there in moving in, getting settled in. And I just have made friends even that are civilians all over the world, that whenever I have a friend that says, hey, I'm getting stationed in Spain next, where should I live? It's like, don't worry, I have a couple of friends up there. I'll reach out and find out for you. So networking is very important for me.
Yeah, networking has been huge. That's one of the bigger things, because like Kate was saying, I've got friends now living in Italy, Germany, the UAE, Guam, Japan, doesn't matter where in the world. I can probably find somebody that's either been there or is still there to be able to help you out. And that networking aspect has been huge. I kept a small group of friends as a kid. Now I've got this family that's hundreds of thousands of people.
And family is important, and learning a lot's important, and you guys have some great life lessons here, and we appreciate you sharing them with us. So the next thing that I'm hoping you will do is, if one of our viewers are thinking of joining the Navy or any branch of the military, do you guys have any words of wisdom or any advice you would give to that potential person that's saying, hey, maybe I want to go into a naval career or any branch of the military?
So I would say identify what you want to do in the military, job-wise, and go and research it in every branch. Figure out which branch is going to provide you what you actually want to do for that type of job. Finding out the jobs is the best way to begin. And using the internet is just such a huge resource, that there's so many people that are currently active duty that have YouTube channels and Instagram, TikTok, all of those social media platforms, and they're constantly sharing like what their everyday life is like, what their job entails, the goods and the bads. So that's something I didn't look into enough. So just taking the recruiter's word for it, I would definitely go and research it a little bit more. A lot of us are misled by it. So it's something that I definitely say is worth the research, and taking advantage of the opportunities to get rank prior to joining, like Bryan did. I unfortunately didn't take advantage of them, and it set me back quite a bit.
The other thing I would, if you're interested in joining, and you make that dive into it, and you decide, hey, I did my research, I know what I want to do, how I want to do it, what branch I want to do. Like when you leave and you actually go to boot camp, the first thing I tell you is, keep your eyes open, your ears open, and observe everything first. Like you may know a good way to do something, but there's certain things that you're taught that are taught that way for a reason. So keep your eyes open, your ears open, and listen, absorb it. Hear what's being said to you. Hear the way that it needs to be done. And then a lot of times later, they'll be like, at the end of boot camp, for example, one of my fellow sailors stood up and said, hey, petty officer, why is it like this? He's like, all right, have a seat real quick. And started going on in his story. And then next thing he goes, hey, seaman recruit so-and-so, stand up. He stood up. He's like, sit down. He sat back down. And the kid was like, did you get the point? And the petty officer was like, did you get the point? He goes, no. He's like, when you showed up, what was the first thing when you said, when I said stand up? He was like, why? He's like, exactly. What'd you do now? I followed the order. He's like, it's a point. So observe everything when you come in, if you decide to come in, or whatever career you decide to go through. Observe things first, listen to what's being done, how it's being done, and then go from there. That's the biggest thing I can push to anybody, no matter if they join the military or not. That's what I can push to everybody.
And that's great career advice, again, as you mentioned, for any career. And Kate, I hope you don't mind. We're going to chat with you for a second. I know that you mentor some young ladies out there in your neck of the woods, and a lot of our viewers happen to be female. And I was hoping maybe you could talk on that, being a female service member, maybe share some extra wisdom for those young ladies who might want to take the same plunge that you have and join the service.
So when you're considering joining the service, one thing I will say, like I said with the last question, is really researching which branch is best for you, figuring out what's important to you in life with your priorities. Some women, they are meant to have families and be moms, and that's completely okay, and you can do that in the military. Luckily, a lot of branches provide so many great programs that allow you to take the time to have your children in stateside around your families. But there's also different paths that you can take, where if you're someone like myself who didn't see myself being a mom right away and wanted to be more career driven, you can take those paths as well, so that you don't get put into that box with every other woman. You can pick whatever one you want. You can live the life that you want to be. That I'm not just MA1 Mehaffey, I'm still Kate Mehaffey. I still do all my cool hobbies and travel the world, and I can still have a family. I'm actually working on mine right now. That you don't need to wait to a certain time in your military career. You can do it right off the bat. It's up to you. Me, preferably, I've decided to wait because promoting for me was more important. So I wanted to take that time to really work on my career and focus on it. I wanted to make sure that I had my life together and all my assets together. So I've been in the Navy for 10 years. I just hit my 10-year mark this week, actually. And I've achieved almost every single goal that I've set for myself. And I am still being able to have that time. I still have another 10 years in the military to use to raise a family, use all of the benefits and programs that they have for women and mothers in the military. So like I said before, just knowing what you want and setting goals and priorities is really important, and making sure that you follow through on them and picking a good mentor once you come in.
And that's great advice, and congratulations on hitting your 10 years. And I know, Bryan, you'll be coming up here on a milestone within the next few years here as well. And, let me close by saying thank you. Thank you guys again for taking time out of your busy schedule to, chat with us and share with our viewers about careers in the Navy. And again, thank you for your service to our country and to the Navy. We truly appreciate it.
Thanks.
If you're interested in learning about careers in the Navy or connecting with Bryan or Kate, we'll be displaying their contact information on the slide at the end of the video, or feel free to reach out to our offices to be connected. Thanks for watching.